So today we're going to be disassembling my Gladiator inspired Bionicle mock. I kind of wanted to provide commentary for this one because there's a couple of ideas and building techniques and points of articulation that I tried to incorporate into the mock that didn't really pan out. And so I wanted to try and explain the thought process behind those and kind of what I was going for and what I maybe might have done differently, sort of as we go through disassembling this mock and taking it apart. The main inspiration behind this mock was the Duck Bricks review of the Gladiator mock from the Dark Hunter contest way back in the day. And you can see in that video that that mock has a ton of stability issues. It was basically created to be cool looking and not really like functional or posable. And so I really wanted to try something similar, similar creature that was also like really big and really difficult to construct and pose. And I succeeded a little better than the original Gladiator, but there's still a couple things that maybe could be improved, and we'll talk about them as we go through. I kind of built this mock in sections and then assembled it all together, which is not a great idea because a lot of the limbs and even the different segments of the body were very large and very heavy, and a lot of revisions had to be made to even get him to be like this stable. And you can get him into a couple of different poses. With the gun arm especially, someone on the Bionicle Lego subreddit, I didn't know what to do with this arm. I didn't want to bricklink another Kalma head. And so I asked the subreddit, like, hey, what should I do with the other arm? And someone suggested a big, like, Samus-inspired gun. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And so I gave them a giant gun, not really like Metroid-inspired, but more like Cyber Demon-inspired from Doom. I love Doom. And so he can lift it and he can pose with it, but he needs to use one of these little vestigial limbs to kind of like prop up that arm. And the legs is like the main point because they're not... I've gotten better at building Titan legs. You gonna stand? Gonna stand? Come on. Yeah, I've gotten better at building Titan legs since this. I started this mock way back in November, and I was missing just like a couple of pieces like these that I needed to get off Bricklink. But now he's done, and I'm ready to start taking him apart. We're going to go ahead and start with the arms, because they're mostly mirrored. And sort of go through there. This is one of the attempts at articulation that I tried to do. I wanted him to have like working shoulders, shoulders that can like move and flex and lift, kind of like real human shoulders. But the weight of the arms just makes that incredibly difficult. You kind of have to like twist these pieces to like prop up the shoulders in order to get him to like lift his arms up. And these friction extenders are doing a lot of work in order to make this mock even slightly stable. Let's take off the other arm. Put all of him to the side. The hand here is built around like the Kalma head. I kind of had the idea that he maybe there's like a tube running through it to make it look more messy, more sort of like haphazard, as if maybe he defeated one of a mutated member of Kalma's species and then sort of like just stuck the head onto his knuckle like that. And the hand is basically a Mata hand with a bunch of stuff kind of like affixed to it. So we'll take those out. I tried to keep a lot of the kind of like the core like signature elements of the original Gladiator mock. So I kept these Liwa Nuva blades with these big old hands. I also tried to, you can see I kept like this, tried to keep similar little vestigial Onua claw torso pieces. Those are on there as well. And the weird little pincers on the feet. So there we go. Slip these off. Yeah, it is just stuck in there. Oh. I should have gotten some kind of, I usually use like a 10 length pin here to try and like pull stuff out, but we'll make do. Yeah, so this was inside the Mata torso, and then everything was kind of just built around that. I wish they had used these these rubberized joints in more things, because they're so handy. I understand that they would lose their friction as they went on, but they're so useful. And most of mine are really old, but they're still pretty sturdy. So I guess I've been just lucky in the way I've kept them. With the upper arm, I really like how this turned out. It's just a Vaki lower leg and Kalma armor to create kind of like a gradient between the red and black. And there's a bunch of Technic that we'll kind of disassemble right now that's kind of holding everything together. So that's how that works. It just connects into that hole to make it stable. And then this 4 length with stop is there. And then this, some of this I don't actually remember how it was built, which is going to be interesting. Because I built most of this guy back in November. So we'll see if I get lost or confused at any point. I really like using these Vaki lower limbs because they have basically spaces where you can like slip in Technic. And so you can reuse, they basically have way more points of connection than your typical Bionicle lower legs. And so I find you can use these in a lot more interesting ways. Thankfully, they also come in a ton of different colors. So that's one arm. I'm not going to disassemble this. It's just mirrored. And then we'll go with this big gun. Again, I just sat down. I didn't even have the rest of the mock in front of me. And I started building a gun and just made it as big as possible. And probably way too big for what it needs to be. It is like impressive looking on the mock, but it's very heavy. Even with the trick of using the smaller arm to prop up the cannon is just very, very heavy. He kind of has to fire from the hip like a cyber demon, which was a bit unintentional. Okay, and most of this is just like Technic and armor pieces, kind of like stuck to the mock. There's these 2 Technic lift arms that run through. And these are stuck onto the piece with this half pin. The Naira Ghost Blaster, this one is called. I'm just going ahead and disassemble the Naira Ghost Blaster here because we're going to need to count all the pieces. I don't know how many pieces this guy's going to be. It might be, I'm guessing, we'll see, 270? It looks like a lot of the pieces I used are very big. But sometimes that's surprising. Like I've had mocks where I'm like, oh, this is just a bunch of like really big pieces cobbled together. It's not a ton of tiny pieces. And then you actually take the thing apart and it's like, oh, it's over 200 pieces. It's actually a lot of pieces. Another one of these rubberized joints. Very helpful. We'll just take that out. It's gonna bug me as I'm spreading the pieces out that these tiny lift arms are all different colors. But whatever. Did you break? No. So that's the other arm, or at least most of it that I want to film. And now let's go to the legs. So the legs are held in with these kind of like double joints. I was trying to mimic the Takanuva legs, the Titan Takanuva from 2008. And then they're stuck to this ridiculous assembly of Technic that kind of makes up the waist. I built the body in 3 segments. But we'll go ahead and go through this one here. The legs went through the most amount of changes, and they are mirrored, so it doesn't. We'll just disassemble one of them. But the legs went through the most amount of changes, and I'm not super happy with how they ultimately came out. But it does work, I guess. Put that aside. It does work. And at some point when mock building, I'm not like, I kind of just want to move on to the next idea. So it's like, whatever. It turned out how it turned out. So here, there's a couple of issues that happen with this mock, and that is that the piston piece is kind of held in with this Technic assembly, and because of the way that the double jointed knees work, it kind of like pulls it out of the foot. There's probably a way to sort of place this further back on the foot so it stops like knocking into these 2 legs. And the double jointed knees themselves, it looks sloppy. It works, but it looks sloppy. I do like the shape of the foot, especially the front part of it. How these 2 orange foot pieces kind of, or Kitangu colored foot pieces kind of like connect together. But it's not super great. It's still better than the original mock. And you can, like, there's photos where you can see him in a bunch of different poses. He can do kind of like a walking pose or a standing pose, crouching pose, that kind of thing. But it doesn't feel good. And when I make a mock, I know some people use there are mock makers that use a lot of illegal connections, and it's basically just like a display piece for them. But if I'm making a mock and it doesn't feel good in my hands, then I'm not super happy with it. Like, it needs to have that feel to it, where you're like, oh, this is a good toy to hold. That connects there. And here, I love using these Rakshi spine pieces. And I use the Kikanalo technique, where you slip them into this little Technic piece, which stops them from lifting up. So they only move down, which is usually stopped by the rest of the leg construction. And there's all this kind of like Technic that I placed, and spikes and stuff that I placed around the Rakshi spine to just kind of like flesh it out even more. Can I pull it? There we go. Yeah, and these secondary legs, they have a tendency to pop out because they're just kind of like just held in there, and so they have a tendency to pop out. There we go. Pull out that Borak tooth. Oh no! It's dead. It died. Well, that one's going in the trash. That's what happens when these pieces are 20 plus years old. Look at that. Just shattered completely. I have a ton of those though. I'll replace it with another one for the part count. And so that is the leg. And you can see this little orange lift arm is holding both of them together. And then there's this structure on the bottom. This is just to give the foot a little bit more surface area. And then I slipped in these little rubberized joints. Or I don't know if they're not called joints. I don't know what these are called. I don't use them often. There's a Mitch Builds video where he kind of just like uses these to add friction and cling to the bottom of the character's foot, and it is helpful. It is helpful to use them like that. That was another very late addition to the mock, where I was like, oh, maybe I should stop him from sliding around on these big flat feet of his. Yeah, and it slips in with this I wish we had these. I've been making mocks since the mid 2000s on and off, and I wish we had pieces like these back in the day. I understand that these are like fairly recent. These extended like half pins. Super great piece. Ridiculous assortment of little pins in here. Using just about every opening on this lift arm. There you go. That's one of the legs. And now, let's go ahead and pull out his brain. That'll be fun. So that's taken out. I know some people complain that the Gladiator mock just kind of uses a Borak head. I like it. I kind of like that it just uses a Borak head, because the Borak head is such a great design to begin with, and it's not literally a Borak, like that's like there we go. So those were held in with these little lift arms in the back of this Borak rib cage. They were holding those in. And let's work on these look insane separated from each other, just like these alien greebly machines. Let's work on the top half of the body first, and we'll work our way back down to the waist. But yeah, like it's not literally meant to be a Borak head. I don't think. It's just happens to resemble a Borak head superficially, and that's fine. It's like a lot of the Dark Hunters that use the, or not even the Dark Hunters, like Makuta has the Mask of Light for claws. And it's not like his claws are literally made out of the Mask of Light. It's just a fun way to reuse that piece. Because it was 2003 and we didn't really have claw pieces outside of like Onua's claws. I didn't know these little Technic connectors, these little Technic flat lift arms were in here. So that's interesting. Like this, I built the shoulders first. So a lot of this is going to be very surprising for me as we go through. Little CCBS to extend the arms out through the body. These originally had a different construction that did basically the same thing but used more pieces. And then I was like, oh, well, I can just change it so that they use different pieces. This sternum piece also is a kind of a late addition. Originally, the arms were just, you could like bend the shoulders. Well, you could kind of like twist the shoulders like back and forth a little bit was the idea. And it felt really bad. It just felt really bad to do. So I got rid of it and just firmed up that front of the chest with the sternum there. Let's get rid of these shoulder pieces. These are held in with the pistons. One of the best Bionicle pieces, I think. Basically essential once you start making like a Bionicle that's larger than like, I don't know, like 8 inches tall or something. And this guy is about, he's a little over a foot tall, I think, if you fully stretch out his legs. He stands better if he's squatting, but you can just try and get him to fully stretch his legs out. There we go. Let's take these apart real quick. There's some, is there not? Yeah, there's a lift arm in here to kind of fill that gap. This gap in here. Yeah, I like it. This dude's so big that he uses like 4 Bionicle like upper bodies, basically, like Inika and Paraka bodies to make up his own body, which is fun. There we go. So those are the shoulders. Fun collection of Hitongu orange pieces that we have here. And here, I think I can just disconnect this. Yeah. And then you can see kind of like the inside of the creature. And does this just come off? This is all new to me. I have no memory of how I built this. Oh, that's fun. Man, I'm getting a lot of mileage out of these tiny lift arms, huh? Um, okay. Oh, and we didn't see it, but when the two back pieces, kind of like the way I built it, is that when he bends, they overlap almost like scales. That took a lot of trial and error to get right. Let's pull off his neck. Okay, so there's like a beam that runs through. I call them. I got into the bad habit of calling them beams instead of lift arms, because as a kid, before, like, let me pull these out real quick. Before Bricklink was really a thing, or before I even knew Bricklink was a thing, I just kind of like made up my own terms for the pieces because they're not named in the instructions. And so these are lift arms in my brain still, even though they're... Can this pull out? There we go. Okay, so that was held in place with this little flat lift arm. And so that kind of like holds everything together. Okay. And there's a similar one in the back. Now look at this insane mechanical structure. Let's take off these rib cages. Okay. Yeah, I love the texture and the look of Bionicle pieces. Like, just look at all this. It's great. There we go. And now let's take off this front section. Oh, and then you can see this is just, I forget what this piece is called, this Technic piece. They're just loose on top of this, and then this sort of like keeps them in place. Interesting. This is all past. JJ was on something when he made this, because I don't remember any of it. I was wondering where these went in my pieces, because I knew I had some. I used them for the what was his name? I want to say Conjurer, but it's not Conjurer. It's what was that guy's name? Mimic's species. So that's the upper body. We're building a nice pile of pieces here. Is there a way for me to disconnect the low? They seem pretty stuck. So we'll go ahead and I didn't build these as like you can kind of see like there's this ratchet joint piece here, this old school ratchet connector. This was meant to be a waist swivel. I really wanted to add like all of this articulation to the body, just really take advantage of how big he is, and make him as human-like as possible. But what I ended up discovering was that making them big does allow more space to work in these points of articulation, these methods of articulation, but it just makes them super heavy. Like, he kept on pulling himself out of the kind of like waist joint because his upper body was so heavy. And that was before I even put in like the arms. Because the arms were second to last after I built the legs and then the arms, and I went back and I rebuilt the legs. There we go. I think this is just some technique to hold this in for some decoration. Is that connected like this? I wonder, I don't know if they still use these Technic pieces, these weird sort of engine pieces, because for me, these are like so indicative of like early 2000s Lego. They use these things on everything. Yeah, these shoulder armor pieces are kind of just held in with tubes. Just pull those out. And so I didn't rebuild the swivel joint. It's still in here, and we'll see if we can take this apart so y'all can see how the swivel joint looked. But just to kind of like stop it from moving, I created this brace almost out of Technic. So I just kind of built around it. Luckily, these pieces, these Technic pieces just lined up really well. Yeah. Yeah. Not the greatest, but an attempt was made there. I probably could have just made it like a full ratchet joint, but I was trying to make it without using any sort of ratchet joints, I think. You have the waist, which is just all this Technic and stuff stuck together. Pull those out. Pull out these hip joints, which is just these stacked little ball pieces. I like stacking the ball pieces. That's something I did on my Air Watcher mock. It allows, because the problem that I see with a lot of mocks with these ball pieces is they put the ball pieces like right here, right? They just stick the ball piece like right onto it. Even if you have even if you have a pin with a stop, that makes it so that when you move the leg sort of like bumps up against like whatever the ball piece is connected to, and it pulls the leg and the ball piece and the pin just out of the socket. So I've been getting to the habit of like stacking ball pieces, so there's a little bit more. There's not like a flat thing to interrupt the movement of the leg. There's just other segments, so it doesn't pull itself apart as easily. I almost forgot what we're looking at. Let's tug out this, I guess. Oh, and then this was held in just by that at the bottom. Okay. Oh, that's stuck in there hard. And so these connect to the sides. These little pieces are mainly there to hold these little lift arms, these little Technic pieces together. They're just kind of like they're just adding cling so that they stay together. I don't know if I'm gonna make other Dark Hunter mocks. I made this is like the third, where I kind of like make one of the species of that Dark Hunter. Um, we'll see. I'll have to go through it and see what the options are. Um, huh. All right, so that's all of everything disassembled that's worth disassembling. I'm going to disassemble the rest, and then we're going to see how many pieces this turns out to be. I'm going to guess 280, and we're going to lock that in, and we'll see how many it actually is, okay? Okay, so I was super off with the amount of pieces it took to put this guy together. We're looking at 410 pieces. So these are all of them. Let me know what you thought of the video. What changes would you make? How would you put this guy together? Um, was there any building techniques, any sort of characteristics that you enjoyed? And I'll see you all in the next video.